Welcome to Ctrl+Talk. This is Anthony and Kate, and we're going to be diving into some big tech stuff today. Um, Looking at Meta and AI.
Yeah.
You've probably heard all this buzz about, AI advancements, and Meta is definitely not just watching from the sidelines on this one.
Oh, no, they're not.
They've got a whole stack of articles here.
Right.
And they paint, I think, a pretty fascinating picture of just what Meta's plans are, what it could mean for their future, and really even what it could mean for like the future of software engineering as a whole.
I think that's a really good point because it's fascinating, isn't it? This whole, it feels like the entire tech landscape is shifting beneath our feet. We're seeing just this wave of investment in AI like we've never seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the articles even mentioned that Meta's planning on spending, what was it, like $65 billion on AI infrastructure in 2025 alone.
That's incredible.
It's more than just investing at that point, right? They're like planting a flag,
Yeah.
saying we're here to play.
And it's not just them,
Right.
You've got Microsoft, Google, Amazon all pouring tens of billions into AI development. It really is becoming like a tech arms race.
Yeah.
Everyone trying to outdo the other. You almost wonder, where does it end and how fast are we going to get there?
Yeah. And speaking of big spenders, there's OpenAI's Stargate project, which is aiming for like a $500 billion
Wow.
AI infrastructure.
I mean,
Even Elon Musk was like, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah, he's not exactly a stranger to ambitious tech projects, is he?
Not at all.
It really makes you wonder if 500 billion is even feasible, but it does highlight just how much ambition there is in the AI field right now.
Yeah, everybody wants a piece of that pie.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've established that everyone's throwing money at AI, but what's Meta's end game here? What's the motivation?
Well, Zuckerberg himself actually said that he wants Meta's AI to be, quote unquote, the leading assistant serving more than 1 billion people.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
So to do that, they're developing their own large language model called Llama 4.
Llama 4, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. For those of us who aren't AI experts, what exactly is a large language model and why is it such a big deal?
Well, just imagine a computer program that can understand and generate human-like text, almost like you're having a conversation with a really, really smart computer. And that's what a large language model is. They're trained on these massive amounts of data, which lets them learn all the patterns and relationships in language. And that makes them really powerful for things like, translation or writing or even generating code.
So Zuckerberg is basically saying that Llama 4 is going to be the most advanced language model out there. And it's going to be able to help over 1 billion people.
That's the goal, at least.
A pretty lofty goal considering the competition. I mean, you've got Google's Gemini and China's DeepSeek all vying for that top spot.
It does make you wonder, is Meta trying to catch up? Are they aiming for something even bigger? Could this be their way to pivot away from the metaverse, which hasn't exactly, taken off like they hoped?
Yeah, it's a really interesting strategy. And it's one that I think we need to keep an eye on for sure.
Definitely.
And, speaking of keeping an eye on things, one article actually highlighted this lawsuit against Meta by a bunch of authors.
Oh, right.
Who are claiming that Meta used their work illegally to train their AI models.
Yeah, that adds a whole new wrinkle to this whole thing, doesn't it?
It does.
This lawsuit, it goes straight to the heart of some really big questions about data ownership and intellectual property in the age of AI.
Yeah, like how do we make sure that AI is being trained ethically and legally?
Exactly.
What are the rules? And what does it mean for the creators whose work is being used to build these powerful systems?
Yeah, those are questions we're going to have to figure out as AI becomes more and more a part of our lives.
So Meta's pouring money into AI. They've got these really ambitious goals. But how are they actually making this happen? One detail that really caught my eye was this massive data center they're building down in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, it's going to be the size of like a significant chunk of Manhattan.
That's hard to even imagine.
It's mind-boggling.
It really shows you the scale of their ambition. Think about it, building a facility that big, equipping it with all the latest technology, the energy to power it all. It's just a massive undertaking.
And to really drive that point home, Zuckerberg mentioned deploying like 1.3 million GPUs by the end of the year.
Wow.
For people like me who, aren't super techie, what exactly is a GPU and why do they need so many of them?
So GPUs are graphics processing units, and they're really good at handling the complex calculations involved in AI training. Meta needs that processing power to train and run these models like Llama 4, which, needs to crunch through tons and tons of data. It's basically like building a super-powered brain for their AI.
So they're building a massive brain in Louisiana fueled by over 1 million GPUs.
It's kind of wild when you think about it.
It's incredible to think about the processing power they're going to have, but it also makes you wonder about the environmental impact of something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
All those GPUs are going to need a lot of energy.
Yeah, the environmental footprint of these huge data centers is a real concern. The amount of electricity they use is just massive. And if we're not careful, the advancement of AI could come at a huge cost to the planet.
It's definitely something we need to be thinking about as this technology keeps developing. It makes you wonder, how can we balance this incredible potential of AI with the need for sustainability? Maybe that's something we could talk about a bit more later.
Yeah, definitely.
But for now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how this AI push from Meta could affect jobs.
That's a topic that I think is on everyone's mind these days, especially with the news that Meta's laying off 5% of their workforce,
Right.
which is about 3,700 jobs. It's a tough situation. And while Meta says that these layoffs are performance-based, it's hard not to see a connection with their big investments in AI. It makes you wonder, is AI going to replace human workers? Or will it create new opportunities?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And one article from blog.anthacity brought up a really interesting point. They were talking about how Zuckerberg himself has predicted that AI could be writing most of our code by 2025.
Wow.
So is this the beginning of the end for software engineers?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. There's this concept called the Jevons paradox, and it basically says that when something becomes more efficient, we actually end up using it more.
Okay.
So even if AI makes coding more efficient, it could actually lead to more demand for software development. Imagine a world where AI is handling all the boring, repetitive tasks in coding, and then that frees up software engineers to focus on the more creative and complex problems.
So more AI-powered coding could actually mean more jobs for software engineers.
Potentially.
Just maybe different types of jobs.
Yeah.
Instead of writing every single line of code, they might be managing AI assistants or designing systems that use AI in the development process.
Exactly. It's probably going to be more of a partnership between humans and AI, not one replacing the other.
That's a much more optimistic outlook than robots taking over the world.
I think so.
But it does make you wonder what other industries could be affected by this AI revolution. We've already talked about that lawsuit, about using copyrighted material to train AI models. What other ripple effects do you see happening?
Well, it's tough to predict anything, for sure. But one area that's likely to change a lot is the creative industry. Think about music art writing, things that we always thought of as uniquely human.
Right.
AI is already starting to do those things. Creating art, composing music, writing articles and stories.
It is a little unnerving to think about,
Mm-hmm.
like a machine being able to replicate something as personal as human creativity.
Yeah, it is, but it's also a really interesting challenge. Instead of seeing AI as a threat to creativity, maybe we should think of it as a new tool, a new way to explore and express ourselves.
I like that.
Imagine an artist working with an AI to make totally new forms of art, or a musician using AI to come up with crazy new sounds and melodies. It could unlock all kinds of creative possibilities.
Okay, so maybe the robots aren't coming for all the artist jobs just yet.
At least not all of them.
But this whole AI revolution, it does make you wonder, what does it mean to be human in a world where machines are becoming more and more capable?
That's a big question. And it's not just about creativity, It's about things like decision-making and even consciousness.
Yeah, as AI systems get more advanced, we're going to have to face some ethical questions too, like bias, transparency, accountability. How do we make sure that AI is being used for good? And how do we prevent it from making existing inequalities in society even worse?
Right.
Really feels like we're entering this new era where technology is changing faster than we can really grasp what it all means.
It is moving incredibly fast.
One article mentioned that Zuckerberg is presenting Meta's AI as a way to, extend American technology leadership.
I saw that.
So does that mean we're entering like a global AI race?
It's certainly a possibility. AI has become a really important strategic goal for a lot of countries, and there's this growing sense of competition to be the leader in this new technological revolution.
So it's not just about companies like Meta and Google competing with each other. It's about countries trying to become the most powerful on the world stage.
That's a big part of it.
It makes you wonder what that kind of AI arms race could lead to. Could it create more tension between countries? Could it lead to the development of autonomous weapons systems?
Those are big
Yeah,
questions.
some pretty scary questions, actually.
They are, and they really highlight how important it is for countries to work together and talk to each other. We need to find ways to make sure that AI is developed and used responsibly and ethically, not just for the benefit of a few, but for everyone.
That's a really powerful message. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this, but I think it's important to remember that we have a choice. We can choose to be informed, engaged, and active participants in shaping the future of AI.
Absolutely. And that starts with asking questions, challenging assumptions, and having open and honest conversations
Yes.
about the potential benefits and the risks of this incredibly powerful technology.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today. From the impact of AI on jobs to the possibility of creative collaboration with AI and the global implications of this whole technological revolution. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about the environmental impact of AI.
Yeah.
It's a really important issue,
It is.
one that we can't afford to ignore.
Absolutely. The amount of energy that these massive AI models use
Yeah.
and the data centers that house them, it's significant. We have to find ways to make their environmental impact less severe.
Yeah, it's a complicated challenge, but one that we have to face head on. If we want the benefits of AI without destroying the planet, maybe we can talk about some possible solutions in our next segment.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
But before we do that, I want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on the environmental impact of AI? What steps do you think we can take to make sure that AI development is sustainable and responsible? Share your thoughts with us on social media.
We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, it's a tough situation, and it's hard not to connect it with those investments in AI, when they're laying people off, but saying it's for performance.
Right.
It makes you wonder, you know, is this the beginning? Is AI going to just start replacing everybody, or is
Yeah.
it going to create new opportunities? Will there be?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Yeah.
And one article from blog.inthacity brought up this point about Zuckerberg's prediction that AI could write most of our code by 2025.
Oh, wow.
So does that mean, the end is nigh for software engineers?
Well, it's not necessarily that simple. There's this idea called the Jevons paradox. Have you ever heard of that?
Yep.
So it's this idea that basically when you make something more efficient, you actually use it more.
Okay.
So even if AI makes coding way more efficient, we might just end up needing even more software development.
Interesting.
Yeah, so imagine AI taking care of all those boring, repetitive parts of coding.
Like all the boilerplate stuff.
Exactly. And then that frees up the humans, the software engineers,
Right.
to work on the really complex stuff.
The stuff that requires more creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
So more AI-powered coding could actually lead to more jobs for software engineers.
Potentially, yeah.
Just different kinds of jobs.
Exactly.
Instead of writing every line of code,
Right. You're more like managing the AI.
Right, or designing those systems that use AI in the development process.
That's right. More of a partnership.
A collaboration.
Yeah,
That's definitely a more hopeful picture than, the robots taking over.
definitely.
But, thinking bigger picture, what other industries could be impacted by AI? Besides, software engineering. I mean, we talked about that lawsuit with the authors.
Right, right.
What other ripple effects do you see happening out there?
Well, it's hard to say for sure what's going to happen, but I think the creative industries are going to see some big changes. Think about music, art, writing, all these things we used to think of as only humans could do.
Right.
But AI is already starting to do those things.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of freaky to think about, isn't it?
It is, yeah, like a machine replicating human creativity.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we can look at it a different way.
Okay.
Instead of seeing AI as a threat to creativity, maybe we should see it as a new tool, a new way to explore and express ourselves.
I like that.
Yeah, imagine an artist collaborating with an AI to create something totally new.
Mm-hmm.
Or a musician using AI to come up with brand new sounds.
Yeah, it could open up a whole world of possibilities.
Exactly.
So maybe the robots aren't coming for all the artist jobs just yet.
Not all of them, at least.
But this whole AI revolution does make you think about what it even means to be human.
Right.
In a world where machines are becoming so capable.
That's a really deep question.
It is.
And it goes beyond just creativity. It's about decision-making, even consciousness.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff.
It is.
As these AI systems become more and more advanced, we're going to have to really grapple with these big ethical questions like bias, transparency, accountability.
Absolutely.
How do we make sure AI is used for good?
Yeah,
And how do we stop it from making existing inequalities even worse?
right.
It does feel like we're moving into this new era where technology is changing faster than we can even understand it.
I think that's true.
I remember one article mentioned that Zuckerberg is positioning this whole AI thing
Right.
as a way for America to stay ahead in the technology race.
I read that
So
too.
does that mean we're heading towards some kind of global AI arms race?
Well, it's certainly possible. AI has become this really important strategic thing for countries.
Right.
And everyone wants to be the leader.
Like a 21st century space race?
Kinda, yeah.
So it's not just companies like Meta and Google fighting for market share. It's countries trying to be the most powerful in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
It really makes you wonder what that kind of AI arms race would look like. Would it lead to more conflict between countries? Would it speed up the development of autonomous weapons?
Those are some scary possibilities.
Yeah. So some pretty dark thoughts there.
It is a little frightening.
But, amidst all of this, I think it's important to remember that we're not just helpless bystanders.
Right. We have a say.
We can choose to be informed, engaged, active in shaping what happens with AI.
Absolutely. And it starts with us asking questions, challenging what we think we know, having these honest conversations about the good and the bad that could come from this technology.
Well said. We've covered a lot today,
Mm-hmm.
from AI and jobs to AI and creativity and this whole global AI race. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you mentioned about the environmental impact of AI.
Yeah, that's a really important piece of this whole puzzle. We can't ignore it. These AI models use a ton of energy, and so do the data centers that run them, so we have to find ways to reduce that impact.
Right. It's a complex problem,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to tackle it if we want the benefits of AI without destroying the planet in the process.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
Maybe in our next segment, we can brainstorm some potential solutions.
I think that's a great idea.
But before we do, I want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on this whole environmental impact of AI? What can we do to make sure that AI development is sustainable, that it's responsible? Head over to social media and share your thoughts with us. Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Meta's AI plans. I mean, we've talked about their big investments, that crazy new data center they're building, how AI could affect jobs, creativity, even the environment. It seems like AI is about to change everything.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're on the verge of something huge. AI has this potential to revolutionize so many things about the way we live and work.
Right, and we've been talking about some of those big questions around AI. Like, what happens to jobs when AI can do them? Or, what about these algorithms that might be biased? And how do we make sure all this development is actually sustainable?
Right, all important questions.
But I want to circle back to something you said earlier about AI being a tool for American technology leadership.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me wonder, are we about to see an AI arms race?
I think it's a real possibility. Like we've been saying, AI has become a priority for a lot of countries.
Right.
And everyone wants to be the one who figures it out first.
So it's not just Meta and Google competing, it's countries fighting for global power.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
It makes you think, what would that kind of arms race even look like? Would it lead to more conflict between countries? Could it push us towards developing autonomous weapons?
It's hard to say for sure, but those are definitely things we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, pretty unsettling stuff.
It is, which is why it's so important that we have international cooperation and open dialogue. We need to make sure AI is developed ethically and responsibly, not just for the benefit of one country or company, but for everyone.
I think that's a really crucial point. The future of AI isn't set in stone.
Exactly.
We all have a role to play in shaping it,
Yeah.
as individuals, as communities, as nations.
Right. It's up to us to decide what kind of future we want to create with AI.
And it starts with education, right?
Absolutely.
The more people understand about AI, how it works, the good and the bad, the better choices we can make.
Yeah, we need to demystify AI, make sure everyone has access to this knowledge, not just the tech experts.
Exactly. We need more critical thinking, more healthy skepticism. We need to create a culture where people are responsible for how they develop and use AI.
I agree completely. It's about giving people the power to understand AI and shape its future, not just feeling like it's something being forced on them.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive. We've explored a lot about Meta's AI plans, the potential impacts on jobs, the environment, the ethical questions, the global implications. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has.
And I hope everyone listening has found it as thought-provoking as we have.
Definitely. And we encourage you to keep learning about AI, stay informed, be part of the conversation about its role in our lives, because the future of AI is being written right now, and we all have a part in shaping it.
That's it for this episode of Ctrl+Talk. Thanks for joining us.